everyone, welcome back to my vlog. I'm Robin, or Hobbit's Reading List, and this week we are just going to read things that I'm actually interested in. Hopefully. Now, I don't really have a way of knowing for sure that the books I'm going to read this week I'm interested in. In theory, I'm interested in them. Will that hold true once I actually start reading them? We'll see. But I did start reading Ancient History by A.J. Truman last night. We went over to a friend's house so that my husband could watch the final of the March Madness basketball tournament. I don't care about basketball, so I just read. So I read Ancient History, and it is following Amos, who is a history teacher at his old high school, and Hutch, who is the new soccer coach, who also happens to be Amos's ex-boyfriend, who never came out of the closet. And they had a 2-year relationship in their senior year of high school, and they were going to come out at prom, but something happened and Hutch broke up with Amos instead. And so now they're colleagues and trying to navigate what that looks like, because there's still attraction, there's still interest, but Amos is obviously deeply hurt. So this is a second chance romance. And normally, I don't really like second chance romances because I think it depends entirely on why they broke up and how it is addressed. I've read books where, like, there was a very good reason that they broke up, and then in the book itself, those reasons are not really, like, addressed or resolved. It's just like, oh, but I like you so much. And so they get back together, and I'm like, well, you're just gonna break up again because you didn't talk about anything. This, however, I am more hopeful about just because it's very understandable why that relationship ended, and now we're 10 years down the line. They're both like 28-ish, and they've both matured. Amos is theoretically more comfortable with being out of the closet, so I am hopeful. I will say, so I got this book. I got it for free like last June as like a LGBT Kindle thing. And part of me was a little nervous because I've read a book that this author co-wrote, Marshmallow Mountain, that it was co-written with, was it M.A. Wardell? Oh, I can't read that far. I think I'm right. The writing wasn't my favorite in that, and I didn't know who was bringing the, like, weird writing. I think it was A.J. Truman. Just because, like, there's interesting word choices that kind of, like, pull me out of it. There's pop culture references, which, like, that's fine, but also it dates it a little bit to where, like, it kind of pulls me out of it. So yeah, oh, and then the main thing that bothered me last night. So I read like 44% last night. But the main thing was, so they're both teachers. Amos also has a group of friends that are also teachers. And they are so stereotypical. Like, one of them is a chemistry teacher, and like his only personality trait is like brainiac. One of them is a drama teacher, so of course he's very dramatic. One of them is a French teacher, like he's fine. But like, and then I think there's another one. I don't remember which subject that one teaches. But, so yeah, so that sort of bothered me as well. Like, I like side characters that have a little bit of depth. And, you know, the chemistry teacher just being, like, super smart and, like, boiling everything down to, like, the scientific theory is just not There's more to them. So yeah, the writing isn't my favorite. I do like the plot. I'm happy that it hasn't been just like super easily resolved. Like there wasn't a like kiss in like present time until like 43%, which I am very happy about because sometimes I feel like they can also like rush and get caught up in like lust. So I am hoping that when I start reading later, they will talk more. Like they've talked and they've become friendly, but Hutch still hasn't said like why he actually broke up with Amos. Like we know, but Amos doesn't. And I feel like that's very important. So, but yeah, I am enjoying it for the most part. And you know, it's a fun, quick read, you know, especially compared to some books that I've been reading. So yeah, I think that's good. And then the only other thing is that I read 5 pages of the Torah. That's the only other thing that I read. So, but okay, I'm going to go figure out what's happening because I keep hearing this weird sound and I think it's the automatic litter box, but I'm not positive. So I will check in later. Okay, so I read a well, I don't know if I say a lot yesterday. I read a good amount because I I track what I read every day, and while I did not finish 4 books yesterday, I did read 4 books yesterday. So by that I mean I finished 2 and then started 2. I technically I finished Treyf first, so I'll talk about that. So I had like an hour and a half left, and I listened to it on my drive to work. And I haven't talked about Treyf in this vlog. Essentially, it is about it's a memoir about the author's experience growing up like predominantly like culturally Jewish. But for the most part, it's mainly focused on her relationship with her parents. And so the Judaism is a part of that, but the book is really about her parents, mainly her father, and sort of like growing up with them and their extended family and all this sort of stuff. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting look at like growing up in New York in like the 70s. So that was really interesting just because it's such a different time from when I grew up, like in the 90s. So it was good, but it just, I don't know, it didn't necessarily feel cohesive enough. Like it jumped a lot. I would have preferred things go more like chronologically instead of getting like glimpses of like future stuff or flashbacks or stuff. So it sort of felt meandering a bit, but you know, it's okay. I actually gave it 3.5 stars because I found it interesting, and I don't like to like knock nonfiction that much, especially not a memoir. Like this is her life, but yeah, the meandering parts of it, I'm just like, it's not my favorite. So there's that. And then I had some time at work between meetings, and it was so nice yesterday. Well, it was nice yesterday. It was a bit chilly if I sat in the shade. I actually took one of the deck chairs at work and pulled it out into like our parking lot in the sun, and then it was great. So I finished reading Ancient History, which I have talked about, so I don't need to explain the plot. And I think I'm right that it was A.J. Truman's writing that I was not a super fan of. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It just doesn't work for me. Hi. the way that he writes. So, like, the story was cute. There wasn't a ton of drama, which is okay. I don't need drama in a romance, actually. Like, as long as it shows the relationship deepening and the connection between the characters, I don't need drama. However, this book didn't have a lot of drama, and if it did, it was resolved very quickly, and it also didn't super show a ton of, like, deepening relationship. It was just kind of like, okay, well, we can't stay away from each other, and now we admit that we have always loved each other. Like, that was kind of it. So, but, like, I was entertained for the most part, writing style aside. So I gave it 3 stars. Because it was fine. There's nothing offensive about it. I probably won't read another A.G. Truman book, just because this is the second book that he has written that I have read, and neither of the books, I didn't enjoy the writing style in either of the books, so probably not going to be a revisit author for me. But I am happy to sort of have figured that out, because I found it confusing because I had read M.A. Wardell before, and to be bothered so much by Marshmallow Mountain, I was confused. So I'm glad to have figured that out. So yeah, so there's that. And then my spinny wheel told me to read again. And luckily I knew that I would probably finish Ancient History, so I went ahead and I used my spinning wheel to figure out what book I would read next. And I brought it with me. And so I'm now reading Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel? I don't know how to pronounce the last name. But it is not on my TBR. I had a conversation with my friend Elissa last week where we were sort of talking about, like, our special interest areas, which are, like, various periods of history, and my special interest area since, like, high school had been the Tudors in England, specifically Anne Boleyn. I actually have a portion of my shelf over here that is devoted to Anne Boleyn books, and I would guess probably like 17 or 18 books. So, and Ellis already knew that I had this, like, Anne Boleyn obsession, but they actually started telling me about the Wolf Hall series, or Thomas Cromwell series, of which Wolf Hall is the first one. And it's written from Cromwell's perspective, and we have been talking about how, because most of the books that I had read were about Anne, they sort of painted Cromwell as, like, the villain in her, one of the villains in her story. Henry is the actual villain, but Cromwell was his fixer, essentially. And so I had never really liked Cromwell, but Ellis likes Cromwell. And so we were talking about this series, and I'm like, alright, well, I'll give it a shot. Because I actually already had it, because I knew that Anne Boleyn featured heavily in it, and so I had already bought it, and they're like, yeah, you should read it, because they want to know how I feel about the portrayal of Anne in it, because historically Anne has been either portrayed as this, like, nitwit who just sort of stumbled into the situation and was stupid. Most of the biographies recently, in the last, like, 30 years or so, look at Anne as much more cunning and intentional, which I think is more accurate. But, and that's sort of, I think, how Ella said she was portrayed in Wolf Hall, because her and Cromwell sort of, like, worked together in the first one. But, so that's why I'm reading it. But Wolf Hall follows Thomas Cromwell, who was, as I said, sort of a fixer for Henry in Henry's quest to get a divorce from his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, who he'd been married to for like 27 years, in order to marry Anne. Now, the important thing is that getting a divorce was already sort of part of the plan, because he had not had a son by Catherine over the course of their marriage. They had one daughter, Mary. And so that had already been part of the plan, was to get a divorce and then remarry so that he can have a son and heir. And then he met Anne, and so then that became the focus of like, yes, getting a divorce to get an heir, but also to marry Anne. So I did start reading that yesterday. I didn't read much. I think I read like 30 pages or so, but I am interested, and I do feel more sympathetic towards Cromwell, because I also know that Ella said that the author did a lot of research, and so it's probably as accurate as it can be while maintaining like a narrative. So I'll be very interested in that. So there's that. Okay. And then on my drive home, I started a new audiobook, which is Don't Forget to Write by Sara Goodman Confino. And I had picked this for the book club meeting that I run at my temple. And it is following a girl named Marilyn. It's like 1960, I think. I think it's like exactly 1960. And she gets caught making out with a rabbi's son, and it causes a scandal. And when I first read that synopsis, I was like, okay, I mean, I know it's 1960 and like that wasn't like as accepted, but like, why is that so scandalous? Having started it, I now know why it was scandalous. And this isn't a spoiler, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's not enough that she got caught making out with a rabbi's son. She got caught making out with a rabbi's son because they broke the stained glass that is the backing of the ark where the Torah is kept. Luckily, the Torah was not there because, like, that would have had deeper religious consequences because the Torah is being prayed around the sanctuary at the time. But it did mean that, like, she went back through the stained glass. The ark was open, and so everyone saw, the entire congregation saw that not only were they making out, but also they had defiled the ark, even though the Torah wasn't there. That is a little bit more scandalous, now I understand, because I'm like, the synopsis doesn't quite explain the severity of that situation. But because of the scandal, she is sent to Philadelphia and then taken to the Jersey Shore with her great aunt Ada, who is a matchmaker in Philadelphia. However, Ada is she's strict-ish. She has her rules that she expects people to follow. She's very direct, but she's also clearly very compassionate. And so this summer that Marilyn is staying with her is sort of Marilyn figuring out, like, okay, is she going to abide by the expectations that predominantly her father put on her, or is she going to live her own life like Ada has? And so I'm very interested in seeing Ada and Marilyn become closer. You can already start to see it. I've listened to, I think I have like 4 hours left, quite honestly, because I listened to it a little bit faster, and I also listened to it this morning on my walk. So they're already in the Jersey Shore where I'm at, but I'm really, really enjoying it. It's very entertaining. So yeah, that's I'm having a good time with it. That's about what I've got. But I've been talking for a long time, and I have to go to personal training. So I will probably not read 4 books in one day again for a while, but I will check in when I have read more. Okay, I did not read as much of Wolf Hall as I wanted to. Not necessarily because, like, I'm avoiding it. I'm very interested. I want to read it. But there's just been stuff going on. And, like, nothing, like, earth-shattering or anything. Just, my mood has been dipping. Yesterday at work was just a very long day. It was probably the busiest day I've had in at least a month, if not like 6 weeks or so. And so I didn't have time to read at work. And then my last couple meetings were not like the best. And so I was just not in the mood for anything besides just like relaxing with Chris last night when I got home. So yeah, that's about that. And then like Saturday I was like really overstimulated because I was a little bit silly and I took like a very hot shower, which felt amazing. But then taking a very hot shower and like just being in my very hot bedroom and like my like clothes weren't like sitting right. I was just very overstimulated and I was like, I can't do anything. But Chris and I ended up just like spending the day together, so that was nice. But yeah, so there's that. So I think like since Thursday I've read like maybe 6 pages of Wolf Hall, unfortunately. I have technically read every day, but it's been through audiobook. So I did finish listening to Don't Forget to Write, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was really well done. I really liked Marilyn. I really liked Ada, and I loved being in Avalon, which is this like very, very small town, but it's on the coast on the Jersey Shore. Yeah. It just reminded me so much of Rockport, which is where my family's from, and I'm missing a lot. I usually end up missing Rockport in Massachusetts around this time of year, and it sucks that this year I'm not going there. But yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed it. I'm very excited about reading this author because there's another book that I have from this author, so I'm very interested in it. I wish that Don't Forget to Write had a sequel though, because like it ended very well, but there could easily be a sequel, but I know there's not going to be because it's not like necessary. But I was just like, but I want it. So yeah, I give it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think the only thing, and this is not against the book at all, because I really did enjoy it. I kind of want to like reread it more in like summer because it's very much a summer book. Most of it takes place in this like summer coastal town on the Jersey Shore, so it's very much a summer book. And so I read it in spring, so I do want to read it. The only issue that I'm having is that it was my pick for the book club that I run through my temple. The only rule is that there has to be Jewish rep, which there was. The only issue I'm having is like, all right, I want to have at least 3 discussion questions, and I think I have some like percolating, but that's the only thing, because it's not a like religious book. Marilyn and Ada are both more like culturally Jewish or on like the outskirts of religious, and so there's not like a ton of that there, but it's still like very Jewish. So I don't know, it'll just be interesting. So that's something for me to think about. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and honestly, that's pretty much the only thing I read this weekend, because I listened to some on Friday, I listened to some on my walk Saturday morning, and then I finished it yesterday on my way to work. And I was going to start another audiobook, but I was just like, I was not in the mood. So yeah, not a ton. Well, I guess I have read a lot this week, though. I did finish 3 books, which is pretty good. So I'm not complaining. But I am excited for next week. I think it'll be very interesting. And yeah, I'm going to wrap up the vlog here. It's nice to get back to just like a regular old reading vlog, a weekly reading vlog, I guess. So hopefully you all enjoyed the return to normal as well. But thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment, like the video, subscribe, click the notification bell, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.